welcome to the circus that we call Later with Leon. I'm your host, the Destin Legend, Leon Rogers, 107.5 WGCI, iHeartMedia station right here in Chicago. And of course, you know what I'm saying, the ringmaster to this crazy thing right here. And I just want to say, I hope everybody out there is staying warm because there's places that's getting cold right now that normally don't get cold. I've been hearing down there in Texas, they just shut the whole state down. A little bit of snow hit the ground. Everybody's trapped in Texas. Well, being from Chicago, that ain't nothing to us. That's summertime out there. Y'all got 1 inch of snow. We go swimming in that, all right? So get it together. Y'all will be all right out there. Hold fast. Speaking of cold, I got one of the coldest on with me today, man. In my opinion, top 5 dead or alive when it comes to making these beats and shaking your ass in the club to something that he created. Give it up for the one and only Mr. Just Blaze. What's going on, brother?
How are you, man? I'm good. How are you?
Man, I am blessed, man, to have you on the show. I mean, like, I feel real good. Last week, I had my man Ty Fife and Rockwell on, and now I got Blaze. So it's like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of riding cloud 9 right now. I go in the barbershop and talk a lot of smack. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. Thank you for having me, man.
Let's get right into it, man. You obviously a well-rounded person that loves music. Where did you get that from? Was that just in you from a young age, or like is that something that you just grew into over the years?
Yeah, that's something that goes back to, you know, literally like infancy. You know, like I grew up around music. I DJed my own first birthday party.
That's
like,
crazy.
Mom's has pictures of me with the records in my hand with the afro, you know, and like there were a lot of early influences to rattle them off quickly because I'll be here all night talking about it. You know, Mom's was a singer. Dad played jazz organ. I had a cousin. My aunt was an avid record collector and of R&B and soul music from that era, late, you know, throughout the 70s and 80s. I had an older cousin who was about 7-8 years older than me, and back in that era, this is when rap music was first starting to be played on the radio, but it was only on Friday and Saturday nights from 9 to 12 on 2 different radio stations out here. And I used to spend my weekends with him, and we would sit up and wait until 9 o'clock and tape the shows every week on his boombox. You know, he had 2, one for 98, one for 107. Wow. We would tape the shows every week and run them back all week. You know, so just being around that, but then also in my introduction coming directly via these DJs, you know, Red Alert, Chill Out, Marley Marl, and actually hearing the idea of scratching, you know, or hearing it happen live, it changed something in me because I had that happening, and then I shouldn't say changed something in me, rooted something, because you have had that happening, but then you also have my dad, because he was played organ, had keyboards all over the house. So it was like that perfect marriage of hip hop is just coming into its own. You know, records are being made commercially available now, as opposed to just tapes being passed around from the park. My dad has the ability to, for me to tinker with his stuff and actually create music. So it's like all this stuff is happening at once. You know, at a time when I was a very formative age, probably like 6-7 years old. So that was pretty much all I knew growing up.
So I saw interesting. I watched this thing on Netflix called Rapture that you were a host of. I sat there and watched the whole first joint, and you tell a story about how you went inside and were messing around on one of your dad's keyboards, and you actually thought you were going to get in trouble for messing around with it, but your parents encouraged your creativity. How important that today, like I'm a father and my daughters want to do different things. They don't want to do the typical, you know, how important is it for older people and adults to allow children to express that creativity? And how do you know when it's something that they really want to do?
So as a father myself, my son is 3. Mm-hmm. I can say that looking back, and this is something I was always aware of, but I wasn't aware of the significance of it, was that you and I would not be sitting here having this conversation right now if it wasn't for the fact that my family was beyond supportive of not even my ambition, because it wasn't like at 10 years old I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a producer, or 8 years old, I'm going to be a producer. You know, but they knew that I had something special when it came to music. And they didn't even understand what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But they knew I had something special. But whenever I wanted something, needed something, whether it was in 6th grade, me asking my mother for a DJ mixer for Christmas, you know, and she doesn't know what a DJ mixer is, you know, but I bring her the Radio Shack catalog and I'm like, listen, this is what I need, you know. And at the time, especially in the 80s, you know, when you're a kid and you have no income, $60 or $69 is a lot of money.
A lot of money, right?
Right. So you're thinking you might not even get this, you know, but like it was the Hail Mary, like,
see what happened.
Yeah,
right.
like this is the DJ mixer that I need to make my tapes. Tapes? What tape? What? You know, like, but then as I got older, like as an adult, I found out that like every time I asked for something, you know, she would reach out, or various other members of the family would reach out to her, or vice versa, to kind of get to do the huddle up. Like, all right, this is what he wants. You know, like, you doing this? Yeah, all right, cool. You know, like even to the time that I was a little bit older as a teenager, you know, like Mom was just telling me this story the other day. Well, actually, I guess last month, regarding like the first real semi-professional piece of production gear that I had. It was when it was all said and done, I think she spent $1,200. Again, you're talking like late 80s, early 90s.
It's a lot of money.
Right. She didn't have that kind of money, like, but
that's crib money.
Yeah, she saw how bad I wanted it and opened up a line of credit to get it, and ended up and was paying it off for years. Like long after I had stopped using it and moved on to other things, you know, equipment wise, she was still paying it off. I didn't know that. You know, all I knew was that it showed up on Christmas Day and my life was changed. You know, but I can tell those stories all day. Ultimately, the support that you get from your family, specifically from your parents, but from your familial unit overall, is key. So like with my son, you know, I don't push him towards anything. It's like, you know, like people have seen videos of him like playing with turntables. Like there's one, for example, there's this one video that I posted on Instagram maybe 2 years ago of him playing on turntables, and he's hitting the faders and spinning the platters. And I want to say he was 8 months old at the time. So people are like, "Oh, he must have learned it by watching you." I'm like, "Watching me where? He's 8 months. He's 8 months old. Like, you think I'm taking him to shows?
Right.
Like, understand that as a child at that age, their eyes are just starting to work. Like for the first few months, everything is just blobs of light and kind of familiar shapes. Like they can't even really fully take in what they're seeing. No, like I've never been that dad that's like, here's a keyboard, here's a drum machine. No, it's just whatever you gravitate towards is what you gravitate towards. And around that age is when he first started to show an inclination to liking the idea of turntables. And to be honest, I think it was at that time, it was more about the spinning wheel. He just liked being able to spin the wheels, and mixers have lights and buttons. Kids like knobs and buttons.
And lights, yeah.
Right, yeah. And light, right. So as time progressed, there was one time like I actually caught him when he was about 1.5 years, and I was playing a record in my record room, and he walked up to the record and spun it backwards and kept spinning it. And you fast forward 2 years later, he still likes to go, like, he's like, "Yo, Daddy, let's go play the records." And he loves to just sit there. He likes to actually manipulate the record more than he likes to play the song. Like I'll put a record on, and all he wants to do is manipulate it to make it make sounds, and he laughs. And it's one of his favorite things to do, you know, when we're hanging out together. But at the same time, there's also other things that he has shown an inclination towards, such as like there was a phase where he loved swimming. There was a phase where he loved the idea of gears, like like how 5 gears can link together and cause each other to spin. You know, like he definitely has some kind of a technical and engineering mind. But no matter how it manifests, my thing is just to make sure that he is encouraged, and that he feels comfortable in exploring whatever it is he has an inclination towards, as long as it's something positive. You know, and I feel like many of us, damn, I forgot to send my mother the link. I wanted my mom to watch this.
She can watch it on Fox Soul. She can go to YouTube, Fox Soul TV. She can watch it right there. We live right now.
YouTube.com/Fox Soul TV.
Yep.
All right,
yep. Tell Mom she can watch it right there.
Okay. But yeah, so like, you know, I feel like for a lot of us, Especially as people of color, the goal that's always, or the plan that's laid out for you or presented to you is go to school, graduate, get a job, get married, have kids,
Yep.
Retire, get a gold watch, die.
Yep.
It's pretty much it. Actually, hold on. Let me text mom that now. Hold on.
And I'm glad you brought that up while you text your mom, because I always feel that I think like Black children, like you said, we get boxed in. We never get told that we could be the next Berry Gordy, the next Quincy Jones, the next Richard Pryor. Like, it's always been focused on us to go out and get a hard-working job and work for years and years and save up money, when at the end of the day, you could be, your son or daughter could be the next fashion designer. You know what I'm saying? Mason Margiela, somebody like that can create. But I think a lot of times the creativity gets stifled, one, because of economic means. And a lot of our neighborhoods that we grew up in, we just didn't have an outlet or access to that stuff. And then, our parents, sometimes they came from,
that's where they came from.
Yeah.
Or they came from less than that.
Yes. So, and they built to get you to this level. Right.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. Like, so for us, like the way I grew up, right? I grew up on what you would consider the nicer side of town, right? Like, if you ever seen the movie Lean on Me, I'm from Patterson, New Jersey.
Patterson.
Right. My mom was the vice principal of Eastside High School for many years. So like, but my family grew up in the projects. But I was able to grow up on the side of town that where the projects is a 10-minute walk away, but we have lawns and backyards, and a garage and a driveway, and ultimately there's a duality to it. Like, you had to provide your children with an environment to do better than you did for yourself or for them. Mm-hmm. But they also have to be able to develop the skills to know what actually doing better means.
You gotta want it.
Right. Because and a lot of times with our people, our parents might not necessarily know what doing better is. And that's why I can't necessarily fault them for thinking that it's the typical path of go to school, get a job, et cetera, at the plant, the factory, whatever it is, retire, get your gold watch, have your grandkids die. I can't fault them because the generation before them maybe only made it, right? Yeah. The generation before them might have only made it past or made it halfway through that path.
Just hold that thought, man. When we come back, we got to go to break, pay some bills. But when we come back, I want to continue down that road, and then I want to talk about the DJing aspect of your life and your career and what you do. We'll be right back. More Later with Leon with Just Blaze coming up. We're back later with Leon, man. I got the magnificent Just Blaze in the building in his home studio. Shout out to everybody that's watching on YouTube. They see the studio. They're showing love, man. Y'all saw a little bit of it. Listen, we were talking about the progression of families over there, especially Black families, and our children being pushed more to do creative things. Right. And I was just talking to you off camera about like how my daughter was taking a class in college, and I didn't even think that was possible because, you know what I'm saying? I was raised to look at other stuff in college. But then you came back and was like, no, actually, that class she's taking is harder than some of the other stuff. How can we as parents, though, that maybe not in some economic backgrounds or some hoods don't have that culture, how can we get our babies out to see more? Like, what would you recommend? Because everybody doesn't have, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's not Just Blaze. Everybody's not Leon Rogers. You got some parents that are out here that going hard every day just to keep food on the table. And they might feel like chasing dreams is not, equivalent to.
Listen, I'll tell you what the starting point is. Shout out to mom because she's watching that. Mm-hmm. There were times where we had pancakes for dinner, right? Mm-hmm. And we thought that's because it was a treat. Like, oh, mom's just being cool. Not knowing, oh no, that's all she was able to make happen that day, for finances or for whatever other reason. So I totally understand the the example you're using about somebody sometimes just their focus is just trying to make sure their kids physically can eat and have a roof over their head. But she always listened to her kids. And I think that's the first starting point, is I feel like us, again, going back to us as people of color, a lot of times we don't necessarily listen to our kids. I think just people in general, we don't listen to our kids because we have our own idea of what success should be, right?
Yes.
And we already use the example of what a lot of us grew up with, or what our parents may have grown up with. And now we're in a position where we did the legwork. In many cases, our parents provided support. In some cases, we didn't, and we had to find that support on our own. But we did. So now we're in a better position. We still have to remember to listen to our kids. So if you are in a position where you're struggling, and you're just trying to handle the day to day, just make sure that your kids have the basic necessities to the best of your ability. If you just listen to what your kid actually tells them, that tells you that they want to do, and you do a little bit of research on what they're talking about, that's the first step. Is just listening so that you can have an informed conversation about what that entails. You know what I mean? Like, even like how you were saying, like your daughter was talking about wanting to go to school for video game animation. And you thought she was trying to take something easy. That's actually something that's, A, it's very lucrative. B, it's not, it's akin to trying to make it in the music business.
Right.
Especially in this day and age. Where everybody's on Fortnite, Call of Duty, PUBG, and a host of other games. And now, because people are seeing that gamers are making money, people are like, wait a minute, like the same way in my era, where I saw that rappers were making money, singers were making money. And then I'm like, wait, what about the people who make the music?
Right.
Right. So she's looking at it like, well, what about the people that make the games? So at that point, the onus is on yourself or myself as a parent to go research that and see what that entails and see what you can do to support that. Because there's nothing that's what's the right way to put this? There are few things that are more unstoppable than a kid with a dream and the support of his family.
Yeah, that's strong.
Even if you don't come from a wealthy or a wealthy or financial background, there are ways to. I didn't come from it. Like I said, my parents worked to get me to point A. I got my family to point B. The family the next generation of my family. But I couldn't have done that without their foundation. But the key thing was they listened to me. And even when they didn't necessarily individually understand what I was trying to do, they saw that I was inclined to something that wasn't normal. But really, to be honest, and this is the last thing that I'll say about this, I don't even want to pivot to the DJ thing. It actually is normal. All of us have all of us have some kind of ability. One of the things that I always say is we all get a shot at greatness. It's a matter of what we do with it. And it's a matter of recognizing that it's being placed in front of you and what you do with it. We all have at least one shot at greatness in our lives. We all have something outside of getting a job at the factory. Like, we all have a natural talent and a natural ability. It's a matter of knowing how to use it, how to monetize it, how to make a living doing it, how to prosper with it. But if you don't have a support structure to help nurture that, or at least listen to you, you're already kind of on the path to possibly being set up for failure. I'll leave it at that.
What? Profound, bro. And now it makes me go back and think about, did I miss my calling? Because my mom and daddy, my daddy used to tell me all the time, anytime we had a party or something, I would come out in the middle of the room, no matter what the age was, and take my clothes off. So I don't know what that could have been. I could have been great.
You could have been an OG Chippendale.
Could have been King Beef or whatever. You know what I'm saying? The Mighty Snake Man. But I missed my calling, bro. You know what I'm saying? Hey, DJing. So I'm a stand-up comedian, and DJing and stand-up comedy to me have some
so many parallels.
Man, bro, because I feel like when I'm on stage, and I also DJ as well, but I feel like when I'm on stage, you tell one wrong joke, you lose the crowd. DJing, play one wrong song, dance for this, and it's hard to get them back. What is your when you're doing sets? Because I mean, you're a pro at this now. You've been doing it a while though. But when you first started, what are the butterflies for DJs? Like what for Just Blaze? Like I'm gonna DJ for 5,000 people. What's the anxiety about it?
To me, I'll be honest. As nice as I know that I am, I have anxiety every time. Like if I'm gonna be totally transparent, it's I've operated at such a high level for so long, and I did it like a robot, right? Like I didn't even think about it. because I just knew I had it. And I got to a point where I had done it at such a high level for so long, I couldn't figure out how to do it better, if that makes sense.
You hit a ceiling.
Right, like personally. And it's something that I still struggle with to this day, where it went to like me, being backstage and being like, yeah, whatever, come on, we got this. Let's get this rider up, let's go. To me being like, how can I do better than what I did last week? And again, it's something that I still struggle with, but what I had to do was kind of, do the work to remind myself that you got to that point where you were operating at a high level for a reason, and you still have that. It wasn't like a fear of me like losing it. It was just more so a thing where it was like, as somebody who does it for the love, and you just figured out a way to make money doing it, or that opportunity to make money doing it landed in your lap, you have to do the work to continue to remain fresh. And that's what I was struggling with for a while. As a comedian, you can't always rely on the same jokes.
Nope.
You can tell it for a year or so.
When you go to that city that second time,
right?
Like, what?
But after a while, they're like, wait a minute, he told this joke last time I seen him. It's the same thing with DJs. Like, wait a minute, especially if you're a DJ who doesn't just play records. Like, you do tricks, you have routines, you have records that you're famous for producing, and you do routines with those. And after a while, it's like, damn, I how do I break out of that? So even somebody at my level who has played for, forget 5,000, I played for 50,000 people, and rocked it. I actually personally stepped away for a while so that I stepped away from doing that. I mean, COVID helped that. COVID helped me step away because I had no choice, but I had to step away for a while just to reevaluate and get re-inspired to do new things. So I just sat back and watched a bunch of other DJs. Every time somebody was on Twitch, every time somebody was on YouTube, every time somebody was DJing on Facebook, I'm just watching them. And I'm doing my own streams, just to do it. But I'm really just inspired by watching everybody else. I think as long as you maintain, and that in turn made my sets better. I feel like as long as you maintain your inspiration, as long as you do the work to remain inspired, once you hit a certain point, that's really the first step in overcoming butterflies. Because here's the thing is, I know artists who have played for 200, 300,000 people at a pop. They play the biggest festivals in the world. They still might get jitters before a show. That's natural. So if you are feeling that, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Just remember that you got there for a reason. You're in that point. You're at that point for a reason. And I think that's the thing that I had to always remind myself. Like, you're about to step on stage at the Ultra Music Festival, for a reason. You're about to play, the Glastonbury grounds for a reason. You're about to play 400,000 people because you did the work. And this is what they came to. This is what they came. You're part of what they came to see. Go do what you got to do.
Yeah, I've always been impressed with, like, I see you guys up on stage because I've had the honor to watch you do several live sets. And this brother sweatshirt that I got on, Timbuktu, rest in peace, one of the illest.
I got the same hoodie sitting right over here. I didn't realize you was from Chicago. I would have worn that myself.
Yeah,
I got his hoodie and the what did they did Dunks or Air Forces?
They did Blazers. They did Blazers.
Blazers. I got both of them sitting right here.
Shout out to the Timothy Francis Jones Foundation. It's about Black men staying healthy. Go check it out. We got to take a break. When we come back, though, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I got top five. Dylan.
That's my answer. That's it. I don't do lists. It's all Dylan.
All right. When we come back. I'm gonna put a little twist to it then, and maybe you could grade my list.
Okay.
Right. We'll be right back. More Lady with Leon coming up. Welcome back to Lady with Leon. It's your boy, the Destin Legend, Leon Rogers. And don't forget, if you want to see more Fox Soul content, subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you hit that notification bell, get all the best updates on new videos and live shows. And also give a thumbs up if you like what you're viewing, man. We got a great lineup of programming. Fox Soul is a wonderful network, giving brothers and sisters a chance to speak on things. Now, speaking on things, I got my man.
Before you get into that, just in case you thought I was BSing,
Yeah, you got the blazer.
I got them right. I had them behind. I got those in like a little frame on the wall over here. So I had to pull them out just to show I was
I've
not.
never worn mine.
Yeah, I would never wear them ever.
They super clean, keep them fresh.
Yep.
Shout out to Timbuktu, man. One of the greats. Just an awesome dude.
Indeed.
So top five. This is what I like to do. I did it with Rockwild and Top Fife and my girl Sandy Red last week. I'm gonna do it with you. Now you say you don't do lists, so now I kind of figured Just Blaze was gonna say that because you know you're a cool dude. You know, like, hey, everybody's good, everybody's great. We're not gonna.
Everybody's great.
Everybody's great. So now, for me, I picked my top 5 Just Blaze produced songs.
Okay.
And I want you to grade my list. If you was somebody that's watching on YouTube, would you be like, nah, I would have went this route or whatever? So here go mine, no particular order.
Okay.
All right. You don't know, of course, Jay Z Blueprint album, one of my favorites. The Storm remix, Lenny Kravitz.
You don't see that one too often.
I mean, I ride with my top down to that. That's my jam. That is my jam. Then we're gonna follow that up with All Right, Alan Anthony. I love that song.
I love that personally. It's one of my personal favorites.
Okay.
One of my favorite things about that record is the way it ends. Like after he finishes singing, you still got like 2 minutes just to
vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Like teardrops from my face. But I'll be in there. All right. My wife be like, will you shut up? Shut up, woman. I'm zoning.
I'm in my zone.
You can get out right here. We stop. We 2 blocks away from the house.
No doubt.
Hovey, baby. Jay Z Blueprint 2, the TLC sample did it for me.
Rest in peace, Left Eye.
Yes. And okay, I cheated, dog. I couldn't just come up with 5. So after I get this 5th one, I got 2 more that I had to add. Exhibit A, Transformations, Jay Electronica. That's one of mine. And then when Mos Def jump on it,
right?
And it just took it over the top. Of course, PSA, Jay Z, still sends the club of his day. And one that I don't hear a lot of people say that to me, we just lost this brother, one of my top 5 MCs all time. I just love it. The Cookies remix, MF Doom. And let me tell you why I really love the song. You do something so simple and so clean and so ill in the middle of it that one stopped people from recording it and bootlegging it. And he was like, shout out to everybody. Please give me back Just Blaze for the bootleggers. And I was like,
oh, Just Blaze Radio, Just Blaze Radio, Just Blaze Radio for the bootleggers.
That sounded like it was part of the song. When you're in the lab, man, when you're cooking up for certain artists, do you try to steer them a certain way, or do you just go with the flow of how they are, or do you try to get them to try new things?
So here's the thing. People think producing is about making beats, right? It is not. You could make a zillion beats that are on 1 million albums and never be a producer. You could also be a producer and never touch a drum machine. You think about some of the greatest produced albums of all time. I always like to use Thriller as an example. Do you think that Quincy Jones was sitting there playing the violins, playing the synths, programming the drum machines, and writing the song? No. Quincy Jones would hear an idea and say, okay, this is how we're going to put this together. We're going to get such and such to do the drum programming. I'm going to bring in this guy from this group to play guitars. We need Rod to rewrite these 4 bars here and change that, and then change the hook to this, change these words here. You're delivering the final product. You're not necessarily doing all the tapping. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the ultimately, when it comes to working with artists in the studio, it is about delivering the best and dopest product possible, for one. For two, it largely was going back to what you were saying about artists trying new things. It's largely also not a game, but I want to use the phrase game, an exercise in psychology, because when you're there in the studio collaborating with an artist, your job, if you're actually producing and not just beat making, your job is to pull the best performance out of the artist as possible. That doesn't mean you could just talk to them any old way or deal with them any old way, especially if it's an artist you might not necessarily have a relationship with. So if you're feeling like they need to redo the second verse and change the hook to this. And then, if you feel the need to steer the ship, you have to steer that ship in a way that's conducive to maintaining a healthy relationship with that artist. And so for me, every situation is different depending on who you're dealing with, right? Like, if I'm in a room with, say, for example, Hov, and he does a verse, what's interesting about him is, obviously he's excited because he's writing and he loves being creative, but he also will still like look at me or Guru or somebody, at a certain point, and either ask what we think or be open to the conversation of criticism. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is an interesting factor because, again, as successful as he is, as great as he is, he can easily operate from the standpoint of nobody can tell him anything, but he's still open and receptive. Whereas other artists who may not have achieved a tenth of what he has, sometimes will be the first ones to be like, I don't need to change anything.
Just let me ask you a question though. So as an artist though, how much of that, because in writing jokes, I'll be on stage and then I'll get an OG comic to come and tell me and say, hey, you should try this. Right. And I receive it. Then I'll even get a young comic that'll come up and say, hey, OG, you should try this. And it's like, I'll try it, but I'm hesitant. So what do you say to the artist in them that they really feel what they're doing is right?
One of the things that I learned in a particular set of sessions, and again, this goes back to psychology, is when you want to pull the best performance out of somebody, or you want them to do something according to how you would like to do it, or you feel like they just haven't nailed something, you have to give a negative along with a positive. You can't, and that was a mistake that I made with a particular artist at one point, like, because I was used to being able to be frank with people, right? Like, I'm the kind of person where it's like, all right, if I think everything that you've written is great except for the second verse, I'm gonna just be like, all right, yeah, your second verse, we need to change that. You flopped on this, and this, and then that's the end of the conversation. And that's not really the way you should conduct yourself. If you don't give somebody the positive reinforcement of, hey, I love verses 1 and 2, or 1 and 3, I just think we should change this with the second verse. That you see how that reframes the conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it makes them more apt to be like, all right, we're collaborating, we're on the same page, as opposed to, oh, he didn't say anything else that I did, or he didn't make any reference to anything else that I did. He just said my second verse was whack. Or he just said my joke was whack. He commented on, like, for you, it's like the thing where, you do an hour-long comedy set, somebody wants to pick apart minutes 29 through 32, but doesn't acknowledge, the other 57 minutes.
Right.
Then it's like, you're not going to take that criticism in the same way.
That's like my wife. She'd be like, baby, you did good. And I'll be like, I did. You know what I'm saying? I see you just in there. You tired. You don't want no water now. No, I'm not thirsty at all. But you did good, baby. Go ahead and get yourself some water. And I feel a little bit better about myself. It's all good.
Right. It's just it's even like I actually kind of even liken it to journalism, where, like, in this day and age where, say if go ahead. You about to say something?
No. We got to go. They're just telling me I got to go to break. So when we come back, stay with that. Keep that thought. We'll be right back. More Later with Leon and why people coming up. But we're going to let Just Blaze finish the start when we come back. Later with Leon. Welcome back to Later with Leon. With me today, the incredible Just Blaze. Now, just before we left, you were talking. You were speaking on. We were talking about beat making and producing, how there's a huge difference between a person who makes beats and a producer, and all of that works out.
Yeah, it's just, it's ultimately a producer's job is to deliver a finished product, not to just make a beat and, or email a beat, I guess, as, or track a beat for an artist and then leave. There's more to it than that. And ultimately, if you if that's all, it took me a while to make that transition from becoming a beat maker to a producer. Like, I wasn't producing records from out the gate when I first started. A lot of times it was me handing an artist a beat and saying, okay, I hope it turns out right. You know, and you know, I hope I hope the mix comes out good. You know, like
Sound good.
right. You know, like so it took a while for me to make that transition. It took a while for people to respect me as a producer, but also for me to build up my own confidence to be confident enough to say to somebody, yo, you need to fix X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Or let's try this, let's try that. It took a minute for me to get to that point.
Have you ever just had when and you don't have to name, but have you ever just had an artist where you be like, I throw my hands up. Okay, come on. Let's go ahead and knock this out. We've been here 6-7 hours. I'm tired. Okay, this is what you want. Cool. I'm tired of trying to produce. I'm just gonna go ahead and be an employee on this.
I've been blessed to not have to have dealt with that much. Once I made that transition from becoming a beat maker to being a producer. I mean, I've worked with some of the biggest and some of the best. Early on in my career, it was a crapshoot. You know, like, because you got to remember that was an era, the early 2000s was an era where you could get a record deal from, you know, being the babysitter's cousin's, you know, you get this artist, right? And
Right.
now you're his babysitter's cousin's college roommate's dorm sitter's uncle. And because you had that 8 degrees of separation, you now have a record deal, right?
Yeah.
So I came up in an era where a lot of people got record deals that shouldn't have. And there would be times where you'd be in the studio and the artist would step in the booth and you would just be sitting there like,
what are we doing? Right. What are
and you got your check, you got paid, and it is what it is, but it's just like, you know, now, like, you know, later in life, by the time, you know, I gathered up the confidence in myself and the respect of the industry, I can pretty much faithfully say, I mean, there was always debates and discussion, but I can't think of a time where I was ever just like, all right, yo, you know what? Like you said, I'm just gonna be the employee thing. I don't think I've ever been in this situation. I'm fortunate because I know a lot of producers and beat makers who have been through that.
Well, I got a spot on this show that I do called Why People. It's a play on words. And this is about people that don't want to listen. Like I just Blaze said, you might try to provide them direction, but they gonna do what they want to do. And of course, they make very interesting videos that we here Later with Leon make fun of. So without further ado, here's this week's edition of Why People. Why? So nobody, wait a minute. My thing is this. Nobody see my man still
eating. The dude who's still casually eating. Like to him, that's just Tuesday. All right.
He just do a wok of hot stuff at somebody, but my man is still sitting over here like in the old Shaolin Temple movies, not being disturbed.
And he's the one that could take everybody down in there.
Right.
With nothing but a chopstick.
Let's go to video number 2. Why, people? Why?
I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I mean, we've all been there one way or another at some point. You know, he sounds like he's from a generation that might not understand how to quickly fix that.
Well,
but
I'm sorry. To me, I would have finished the meeting. Like, see, that's the difference. Like when my kids hate for me to go to their e-learning parent-teacher conferences, because I got on luchador mask and I'm sitting there talking with the teacher. We at the crib. Like I make them entertaining. Like I'm not coming on there just regular. I'm dressed as Batman asking how my 8-year-old daughter is doing in school.
No, it was that was funny. I wasn't mad at dude for not being able to figure it out. Man.
Clip number 3. Why, people? Why?
What?
Yeah, this can't go good.
What? Nah, you gotta.
Well, I hate to say it, there's just some things we ain't doing. I don't care how dirty my hands is.
Nah. Nope.
Talk about Rona.
Definitely some things we ain't doing.
Look. And the last one, we got one more, man, before we get out of here with Why People. Let's take a look. You know, me and you off the plane immediately. They landed it.
See,
it was touching
I'm faking a medical emergency. Don't let that be the person next to me.
Oh,
we would have a problem.
It's
like,
open.
Come on, man. Show a little whatever. I'm not even gonna bother. You already know what I'm gonna say.
He say he paid for first class. He can do whatever he wants to.
He can't do that. Not sitting next to me.
No.
There will be a game of about the fisticuffs. Like that actually, like, you know, there's been a couple of not a couple of times, maybe like 1 or 2 times that I could think of where, you know, I'd be at the very front of the plane. Now, you know, that same situation or setting in class, and somebody would just take their shoes off and their socks off. I take my shoes off immediately, right? Because your feet compress or yeah. So you want to, you know, like, you know, take your shoes off. That's one thing. But I always make it a point to, no matter what, I have clean socks on. They might be like unworn, fresh, brand new socks, just out of respect for whoever is sitting next to me in that cabin. So when you go, you don't even bother to have on fresh socks. You just take whatever socks you got off, or you on the plane. You came on the plane with no socks on. You just had some leather penny loafers, and you sweating trying to run to the gate. And now you get off the plane and kick your shoes off, and now you just got your bare feet up, sitting up on the bulkhead of the plane.
Oh my God!
Come on, man.
Oh my God! Hey, listen.
That's one thing I don't miss about flying. Like, some people just don't know how to respect their cabin mates.
Listen, man. We'll be back more with my man Just Blaze. When we come back, Just, there's a certain artist that wanted you and only you to produce a certain song. We're gonna get into that story when we come back, right here on Lady with Leon. Welcome back to Lady with Leon. It's your boy, the Destined Legend, Leon Rogers from 107.5 WGCI, iHeartMedia station right here in Chicago. Today, I got on the show producer extraordinaire Just Blaze. Now, I was alluding to the fact that there was a young lady that said that you had to be the person to produce this song. She didn't want anybody else but you. Could you let the listeners know, the viewers know, who was that lady and what was the song?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I thought you were going to tell me.
I thought maybe you knew. I mean, I know you work with a lot of famous people, but, you know, lemonade is a popular drink, and it still is.
I'm talking about the Beyonce thing.
Yeah. Oh no! Y'all see how he did that TV like this? Oh, Beyonce. Yes. Yeah. My girl. Yeah. You just.
Yeah. Nah. So that was a situation where, you know, most times when it comes to an artist or working with an artist, I'm bringing them an idea and we're building from that. B is a producer herself. You know, like, when you see her name in the production credits, it's not just her doing that because she can, because she's an artist. Like, she's a producer, in the sense of what I was talking to you about, delivering a final product and executing a vision. So she brought me a demo of Freedom, with the sample already there, but it was just her singing over the loop. And she was like, you know, like, I forget, I was sitting in the crib one night, got a text from Teresa, her manager at the time. Teresa texted me like, yo, B wants to talk to you. So B and I had this conversation. She was telling me about this record she has, and, you know, she was just like, you know, only you can. She's like, yo, I need you to do this. Like, this is your sound. It already feels like you. I just need you to bring it home. She sent me the record, and I was just like, oh yeah, I can literally do this in my sleep. You know, so brought in a few musicians, a few other people to work on it. Shout out to the homie Miles, and we you know, the bulk of it got done in a night, and then I went from there and added on. It's like, you know, it's one of those things where you get your idea out, and then over the course of a couple of weeks, if you had the luxury of doing this, you kind of just can play Jenga with it. You know what I mean? Like, take this out, move this here, take this out, move this here. And that's what we did back and forth for a while. And she, it's funny because as I was working on it, one of the homies at the house was like, yo, Kendrick would sound amazing on this. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to tell her that. The next round of revisions that we talked about, she sends me a version that has Kendrick on it already. But that wasn't based on our conversation. Like,
right. That was her.
Right. We were just aligned.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, like, that record is a classic example of Beyonce's, I feel like, her unsung approach. I guess maybe part of it is unsung because people aren't really aware of it, but of the fact that like when she is working on a project, you know how you go to like, you see movies, right? Or you see it on the news, but more so in the movies where there's like, where somebody's at war and they have the situation room where all the generals are there.
Yeah, right.
And everything is on the walls, the TV screens and whatnot. Walking into a Beyonce session is very much like that on a creative level, where you walk in and she has whiteboards, TV screens, posters, pictures hanging up, vision boards, mood boards. Like she's very much laying out what it is that she wants to do. It's not a situation where like, there's an A&R guy or a label president or whatever saying, okay, so for this album, we're going to pitch you like this. We're going to have you do this show. No, it's if somebody from a record label walks in, it's, hey, I'm Beyonce and this is what I'm doing. Here's the plan.
Yeah, that's strong. Listen, real quick, we don't have that much time, man. I could sit up here and talk for hours because I know you got amazing stories. Two things I want to hear from you. So Justin Timberlake, recently he apologized to Janet Jackson.
Yeah, so
during the wardrobe malfunction that happened in the Super Bowls. I think it was Super Bowl 38. You think that's 17 years too late? Because I like Justin, man, but I felt a certain type of way. About that whole thing.
I'm in the same boat. And I'm a Justin fan. You know what I mean? Like musically, creatively, I'm a fan. And when the dust all cleared from that, when the dust settled, he went on to continue to be cool.
Yep. She
got smeared. She got frozen out from being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If I'm not mistaken, there was something that came out about that recently. She's Janet Jackson. She's still good, but she dealt with an unfair amount of backlash from that. And he never. And I remember somebody bringing up the point once, like he. It's not even a matter of him trying to jump in and take the bullet for her, but he didn't stand in solidarity with her.
Yeah, culpability. He didn't take any culpability in the whole
right when she went through the mud, and that definitely has always bothered me. Okay. That said, I feel bad to a certain degree, right? Because at this point now, anytime anybody who's not of color apologizes for something, it can easily be framed as they're doing it now because they have to, because of the spiritual and cultural awakening that has happened in our society over the last few years, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's doing it now because he has to.
Right.
But that's how it can easily be framed. And when you run the risk, when you wait too long to apologize for anything, when you wait too long to address anything or speak on anything, when you finally do, you have to accept or deal with the fact that your apology might, or your explanation or your engagement might not be taken in earnest because the circumstances may have changed. And in this case, like I said, what we've seen as a shift, we've seen a shift in the treatment and addressing of Black people and people of color in general over the last few years. So now it's being framed through that lens. Whereas had he just done it back then, it could have been like, yo, it was a wardrobe malfunction. You ain't gonna drag her through the mud and not have me, and have me still be cool. You know what I mean? That's where it differentiates. Now his motive looks a little bit different.
All right, man. Hey, listen, I'm glad we had you on the show, Just Blaze. I appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here, bro.
Man, I 100, man. This is great for me. Stay tuned. Tammy Mack is up next, man. We love y'all, Foxhole. You see something in these streets, say something. Also, everybody, if you haven't watched it, check out Judas and the Black Messiah, man. Whew. Powerful movie. Peace.
Salute.